Hello everyone. I decided that I was going to try today to do a screencast so that I could show you some of the steps that I do in Lightroom to process my photos. And this is something that I've been thinking about doing for quite a while, but I wasn't ever sure exactly how to do it, and it required lots of print screen captures and step-by-steps, and I just hadn't done it yet. So today I'm going to try to do it, and I'm trying to do it via screencast so that I can just show you in just a couple of minutes instead of doing a long step-by-step, and that just sounds harder to me. I'm very thankful that you can't see that I haven't done my makeup this morning or that my house isn't clean. A good thing about a screencast. So here I've got a photo open in Lightroom. I'm just going to show you the top 5 things that I do with all of my photos pretty much. The first thing that I always do with a photo is I fix the white balance if it's not perfect, and because I shoot in auto, a lot of times it isn't perfect. And generally I'll try to find a middle gray tone if I have one, or kind of a darker whitish tone if I've got one of those, and click there. And this generally gives me a pretty good starting point. I think on this one that the skin tones are still a little bit too red, and I think it's still a little bit more blue than I would. I don't know, I'd probably go up to like 56 something here and drag this down. I don't know, that's probably too green, maybe to 2, like that. That looks pretty good to me. That's a starting point, and if it ever gets too warm, then I can always fix it after the fact. The next thing I do is generally I don't move the exposure slider too much because I've got my exposure pretty correct. If necessary, I do drag up the recovery slider a little bit. I like to shoot a little bit bright. You'll notice in my histogram that most of my tones are to the right of this histogram, so I like to shoot a little bit bright, and that means sometimes that I clip highlights, and so I use recovery sometimes to bring those back. I try not to drag it too far or knead it too much, but it happens occasionally. The next thing I generally like to do is bring up my blacks. This helps with contrast, and I just generally like the look of it. Most of the time I'm bringing it up into the teens and 20s. That looks about good to me right now. Now you may think, oh, that's great, but sometimes I do add a little bit of brightness here too. I do like my photos a little bit bright and my skin tones bright. Just a preference of mine, so that's what I do. I bring my brightness up a little bit if needed. And then I would probably jump down here to Vibrance and bring up my Vibrance. Depending on the photo, depends on how much I bring it up. This one I'm not going to bring it up too much because I don't want to emphasize the reds in her face, so I would just bring it up to about 24. Now, one other thing that I sometimes do with my photos is to add a little bit of a vignette. I don't like too much of a vignette, so I don't generally go overboard on this. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I do on purpose, and I went through a stage where I really did my vignettes dark, but I usually do bring somewhat of a vignette to my photos. So I come down here to the effects panel over here on the right, and I would drag my amount down. I don't know. This photo is probably going to tolerate a little bit more of a vignette than some would, somewhere here in the 20s. And then I would drag my midpoint down a little bit. I don't know, maybe somewhere in there. And that is just a basic edit that I do to my photos. Now, if I come down here to these double Y's on the bottom, I can see a before and after. I just click on it again to see a better before and after. And here you can see what my photo looked like before and after. My edits are generally very simple and clean. I don't like wild things done to my photos, so you can see that the edit before and after is pretty simple and basic. So anyway, those are the top 5 or so things that I do to most photos, and hopefully you've enjoyed this and it's been helpful to you. See you next time. Bye.